Most people have a lot of knowledge rattling around in your head, and you've heard that you wish you could act on this. You know that you need to do it, but you might not be quite sure how. And it can be frustrating. So if you know what you need to do, but you can't seem to get started, or you have a problem following through, then this video is the answer for you, because I'm going to take and show you how to turn that knowledge that's running around in your head and actually turn it into action in your business. I'm also going to give you some tips for staying accountable so you can finally achieve the goals that you set for yourself. And if you want the show notes, then drop the word action below, because if you followed any of my videos, either on social or on YouTube, I cram a lot into a very short amount of time, and the show notes will give you the cliff notes and sometimes additional bonuses and resources. So just comment with the word action below. Hey, I'm Joyce Lehman, and I help coaches, consultants, and course creators leverage their unique message and their mindset so they can stand out online, sell more services, and make a bigger impact without getting overwhelmed in all the things. Okay, so today I want to get into the how you get into action. This has come up in conversation. I've put it out in posts on social, and it seems to be a common frustration because a lot of folks that I know, and probably like you're very driven, but you tend to get overwhelmed doing all the things. So I want to break it down for you so you can take your knowledge and you can actually create revenue out of it. So the very first thing is defining what you want to achieve. Why? Well, you got to have goals. Your brain, we're teleological by nature. That means we're goal-oriented creatures. So if you are not setting very clear, specific goals, what you want to achieve, the next steps, and even if there's a lot of things, let's back up for a minute. The difference between an action item and a goal: action items, you already know what to do. A goal is a thing that you set out there and you may not have all the pieces for it yet. So when you set a goal, then your brain gets busy to help you find what you need to accomplish that. So if you're already in business, then it's about taking that and then really getting you focused on the main things that you need to do. If you're in a brand new startup and you haven't done anything, then check the show notes, because I have a link to a couple of podcasts that I think are going to help you get started. So the very first thing is define what you want to achieve. As I said, this isn't your big, hairy, audacious goal. Have you ever heard of a BHAG? I didn't create it. It's been around forever and a day. Your BHAG is that long-term vision. What I want you to think about is, all right, this is what I want to accomplish in the next 90 days, or I've been pondering doing things and I'm not sure what or where to start. So ask yourself these questions. What is the main problem that you solve for your clients? A lot of times you are your ideal client several years ago. So think about, what's that problem? What were you seeking? What did you want to do? Why did you get started in the business that you are? Because there's a good chance your clients are experiencing the same thing. So that's the first question. What are the main problems that you solve? Number two, what are the results that they want to see? And a lot of times the results that your clients want to see aren't necessarily what they need first. So you need to list those in order of priority. And then question number three, how does that map back to what you want to achieve in your business? As I said, I'm flying through this pretty quick, so make sure and grab the show notes. Okay. So say, for example, you're a business coach and you help clients get clarity in their business. So part of it is they need a clear business plan, they need to focus on their niche, and they need to focus on generating more consistent revenue. So in order to achieve that in your business, then you need to focus on things like creating cohesive offers. How do you have an offer that is a free, maybe a lead magnet, a cheat sheet, something like that, that leads into a low ticket offer? that leads into a higher ticket or a signature program. So part of it is thinking about cohesive offers. Where somebody's at, if they're just learning about you, they don't see that you're the expert yet, but they need to kind of stair step. It's very rare that somebody's going to see you post something on social media and go, oh my gosh, I have to invest with you. So that gets back into, you've got to think about stages of awareness that somebody's in, problem or unaware, problem aware, solution aware, and you aware. They recognize that you are that person. And once you know that and you've got your offers, then that's when you also need to think about how are you going to market consistently? What platforms are you going to be on? By the way, where are your ideal clients spending time? You don't want to have to be posting on every platform doing all the things. It's about marketing consistently in the right places with the right message. The other thing is filling your pipeline with qualified leads. And that comes down to you have to be able to have sales conversations. And it's not, and I have run into this on LinkedIn. I get it all the time. Somebody wants to connect with me and they immediately attempt to sell me. That's not what I'm talking about when I mean having sales conversations, because it's always about how you add value first, but then you have to know how to qualify to find out, are the individuals that are coming to you, maybe it's a free workshop, maybe it's, a mini paid workshop. Do these people actually fit into your ideal client criteria? Is that somebody that you want to work with? So as a business coach, those would be things that would help you to get really focused on what you need to do next. Now, say, for example, you're a wellness coach and you want to help get people healthy, and that means reducing their stress and sleeping better. Doesn't necessarily mean lifting weights and all the things, but if you've got a specific methodology to do that, then you need to focus on things like, it's your course. It always goes back to offers. Well, what are your offers? Maybe you're going to do, in fact, I've seen a wellness coach that I've worked with. She's doing these super cool workshops where people come to her house now that the world is opening back up, and they actually get to put together some super fun salads and lunches and things like that in a group setting. So as I'm talking about courses, there's so many ways to get inventive and creative. So if you're a health coach, that's one way to do it. It goes back to, how are you going to market consistently? And how are you going to do like social media outreach? How are you finding people on social? And then that also could include email marketing. So these are the things that you need to consider, as I said, when you define what you want to achieve. And going back to, if you want to grab the show notes, then drop the word action. And I do have some folks that DM me after the fact because they're not comfortable commenting during a video, whether it's live or replay. Totally get it. So you're welcome to send me a DM too, and I'm happy to send you those notes. Okay. So now that you know what it is that you want to achieve, the next step is gathering the information to make it happen. And this is where your RAS, it's called your reticular activating system. And to be clear, I am not talking about the law of attraction. This is cognitive science, which I have been studying and highly immersed in with the Pacific Institute since 2005. So your RAS acts like a filter on your subconscious. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we are teleological by nature. It means we're goal-oriented creatures. So if you don't set clear, specific goals, these are things you don't already know how to do. If you do, it's an action item. If you don't, it's a goal. Because once you're clear and specific about that, then your RAS, this is that creative part, and you don't have to spend a lot of effort on it. That's what's so cool, is it is a mental filter. Now, it typically filters out threats. So it filters out the bad stuff and it filters out the good stuff. So a simple example, think back to the last time you bought a car, you drove it off the lot, you started to see that car in that color everywhere. But before you bought the car, you didn't see it. It was always there, but it wasn't important. So that's why if you want to gather the information to make it happen, that goes back to step one, get clear and then use your RAS, because your RAS is going to help you to recognize people, information, resources. It is this phenomenal tool. In fact, the more you use it, it's like, I'll write down, I need to create this, or I need to do this. And then I don't focus on it as I'm walking around the house. You could be in the shower, you could be driving down the road. Then your RAS, you start to get these ideas that happen. I guarantee that's probably been going on for you, but you may not have known that your RAS is the mechanism to make that work. It is my favorite tool. Okay, so with that, and also, if you're watching this, make sure that you give Restream your permissions while we're live. Unless you do that, I don't know who's commenting. I always go back after the fact to make sure that I follow up with everybody. Okay, so as I said, if you want to use your RAS to help you gather information for your business. So say, for example, when you're looking at marketing and you want to start a podcast, or even you want to go live like this. So with that, then it's figuring out what you're going to offer. It's figuring out what the topics are, what your target market is. It's that same thing is, okay, I want to do this. Then what are the steps I can use to make that happen? So, as I said, get really clear and specific. The other thing to reinforce, this is not law of attraction. This is simply using that part of your subconscious to work. Now, I know if you've not done it before, it can sometimes feel awkward, and I get that. It's a mental muscle. It's just like if you're going to work out, it takes a little practice to develop that tool. So this is where using an affirmation, we affirm things all day, every day. We just don't realize it. But this is where saying it's easy for me, my RAS easily picks up on things. I didn't know about it before. It's getting easier to do this. But simply by saying I'm confident, I know I've got my RAS to help me out, that's what helps your subconscious versus the opposite, which is, oh no, that's never going to work. I can't make that work. So that's why we're on subconscious autopilot 95% of the time. When you start getting into conscious action, it can feel awkward. So just using some of those statements, and as I said, just get clear and then let your RAS go to work to find it. Now, the next thing that happens when you are turning knowledge into action in your business is I want you to identify obstacles. Potential obstacles. This is not about getting into a negative state. What I found, and for years I worked with leadership teams, I worked with sales teams, and I would take them through quick workshops as well as multi-day workshops for lead generation, business development, branding, and all of that. And one of the things that we would do, especially with leaders, if you've got your own business, you need to be doing this all day long, but it's recognizing potential obstacles that could keep you from your goal. Because when you go, oh, that might happen. Maybe it's a time thing. Maybe it's you need a location. There's something like that. Could be a money thing too. I guarantee there's always a great way to make things happen on a budget. That's what I am the queen of, and I've been practicing it for years. But keep in mind that obstacles, sometimes the biggest one, it's literally the 4 inches between your ears. It is the comfort zones that we get into, especially when you're wanting to do something new in your business and it feels awkward. So when you recognize the obstacles, and there's a great way to do that. So as I said, if you want the show notes, be sure and post. There are 3 specific questions. So the first one, this is where you have to get real. What is stopping me from taking action? Number 2, what do I need to do to overcome the obstacle? And then here's the big one. Number 3, what's the worst that can happen? If you do this, what is the worst that can happen? I have had clients and potential clients come to me and go, oh my God, I could never go live because first off, I don't understand tech. It's easy enough to learn. But secondly, what happens if something screws up? You know what? I have been going live for a long time. I've had pretty much every technical glitch that can happen. I actually spoke at TEDx on comfort zones back in 2013. The prior speaker's video started playing when I was on stage. I had a PowerPoint slide up. You could hear their audio, and I got one of the biggest laughs that I could from the audience because I played along with it. I have had my laptop shut down and do a reboot in the middle of a live multi-day workshop. In fact, I had to go out a couple of times. We turned it into a huge laugh. The group had a great time. I was on my mobile. I went into the Facebook group and was chatting. It all worked. So it goes back to what's the worst that can happen? Really, it's not that big of a deal. Sometimes we make up things in our head that we shouldn't have. So Maybe you're thinking about creating a new coaching offer and you put yourself out there on social media because you hate being on social media. Maybe you're more introverted. I get it. I'm an ambivert. I used to have to go to networking events all the time. Last thing I wanted to do. But you've got to market yourself if you want to get more clients. Here's the dilemma. If you start thinking way too far ahead versus the next step, then you can become your own obstacle and you will literally talk yourself out of what you need to do. So this is why I break it down into baby steps as to the next thing that you need to do. The worst that can happen, you've got an offer, you're putting it out there, no one buys it. But even if that happens, you get feedback from people that you've been talking to. It helps you to be able to recreate, to tweak things. Goodness knows I've done that. In fact, I'm sending out an email to my list this week because I'm planning content for the next 3 months and I want to know what people are really interested in. So if you're concerned about an offer, then put out feelers and start asking questions in advance. Get a lot of feedback. And then if you find yourself hesitating, then ask yourself about mindset. Where's your mindset? Are you literally talking yourself out of the things that you need to do? All right. Number 4, take action and adjust as you go. Now, there's such a thing as action, and then there's imperfect action. I have known too many people, they wait until everything's perfect before they actually do something about it, versus you take imperfect action. You're okay with taking an imperfect action because failure is part of the success process. Everybody's going to fail at some point, and that's fine. But failure moving forward is the direction that you want to go. So this is where creating a plan and going back to step number 1, what is it that you want to achieve, answering the questions that I've been giving you, and then creating an actionable plan. And I am reading off the notes because I want to make sure that I get this right. Okay. So first, to create your plan, you're going to ask yourself these questions. What specific steps do you need to take in order to achieve your goal? And you want to break this down to the tiniest step. And step number 1 might be planning 30 minutes on my calendar or an hour on my calendar to map this out. That's what I mean by breaking it down into the smallest step. Then what resources do you need to accomplish your goals? If you start practicing with your RAS, you might be surprised at the resources that find you much quicker than you getting frantic about it. And then question number 3, who can help you achieve your goals? I did a video, it's been several weeks ago, about creating powerful partnerships. This is where the value of your network and those relationships come in so helpful as we're growing our businesses. And guess what? Not all of your best connections have anything to do with your business. So that's why if there's something that you're looking to accomplish, then ask. Because if you don't ask, the answer is always no. And sometimes when you do ask, the answer comes from the person that you would least likely suspect it to be. All right. Then you want to take those steps and you want to break it down even further. So with that, your action plan should include the steps that you need to take, super important, the resources that you need. So this is where you're going to map out all the different resources. And if it's something to do with tech, know that that's easily overcome. And there's amazing tech resources that can help you streamline. Who can help you? When will you take action? And then here's the big question. How will you measure it? Peter Drucker said eons ago with leadership teams, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So you have to know how you're going to recognize, am I successful? Did I achieve this? Going back to the offer, that example that I gave you earlier, you might launch an offer and the offer may not bring you the revenue you want. That doesn't necessarily determine success or failure. That means you put the effort in to launch the offer. You might just need to make a few tweaks, and then it helps you refine, who is this really for? And then you launch it again, and then you have the success that you want. So that's why be careful how you define success. So important. Once you have all of these steps, you've gone through each of these areas and you've asked the questions, then it's time to start taking action. As I said, imperfect action is better than waiting until everything, all your ducks are in a row. That used to be me. I used to be Sheldon Cooper. If you ever watched The Big Bang Theory, I used to be Sheldon Cooper on the couch. I had a set schedule. It had to go just like this. And when it didn't, it completely freaked me out. I got over that. I had a number of personal things happen in my life, and my TEDx talk and comfort zones and the 𝗬𝗏𝘄𝗧 high course 35 feet in the air gets into that whole story. But part of it is overcoming this. So the key is to go through those steps and then adjust as you go. There's always going to be tweaks. I guarantee even the top people in the business never had it perfect from start to finish. You can always add things to your plan as you're going, and that's okay. But the most important thing is to chunk it down and then take each step and then recognize your wins along the way, because that's what gives your brain the dopamine hit, and it also gives you the motivation to continue on. So you're going to pick one item from your action list. You're going to commit to doing it within 24 hours and then do it again and do it again. As I said, start with the smallest thing. I'm not saying create your course within 24 hours, not to say you can't do that. I have done things like that, but take it easy and get really clear. Okay, so going back to, I want to give you the recap. So step number 1 is define what you want to achieve. This is not a big, hairy, audacious goal. This isn't your 5-year plan or your long-term dream for your business. This is going back to, what are you wanting to do with your business? And then asking yourself the questions to back up to say, okay, what are the most important things that I need to be focusing on right now? Do you have, we'll just give you a few. It's like, do you have your clear offer? Is there a natural progression in your offers? Do you have a way to market your offers? And I'm not saying posting random content on social. That is not a marketing plan. Do you have a multi-channel strategy? Is it social and email? Are you going to put yourself out live? Are you going to do podcasts? Are you going to do interviews? But that becomes part of that. And then, of course, you've got that lead gen of, how do you recognize who's a great client to work with, and then also have conversations. So those things may fall into what you want to achieve, but only you're going to know where you're at in your business right now and what you need to do next. All right. Step number 2, gather information to make it happen. This is where you can use your reticular activating system, I call it your RAS for short, to help you filter out. It filters out rewards. It filters out the good stuff and the bad, rewards and threats. But this is where, when you're very specific on what it is you're looking to accomplish, you write it down. I always say write it down, although sometimes I've thought about it and then, there's the resources. It's not law of attraction. It is the filter located in the central cortex of your brain. But when you do that, then it helps you to gather information to make what you want to achieve, those goals, happen. Number 3, identify obstacles. That is so huge. Most people are going along. They've never thought through, well, what if this happens, this happens, this happens? Could we have ever planned for a pandemic? No. I remember a conversation with my friend Jennifer, and this was in March when everything started to happen. We thought, for sure, this thing will be done in 3 or 4 months. Or 2.5 years later, my entire business model shifted. So that's why we don't always know what potential obstacles will happen. But if you think through, well, if this, then I'm going to do this. Well, faced with this, then I could do this. Faced with this, I could do this. It helps you, and I know pivot is an overused word, but it helps you to be able to more easily pivot in the process when you think through those things. And then number 4 is take action and adjust as you go. Because when you do that, when you're actually moving forward, you're going to find that when you get your quick wins, at the end of the day, ask yourself, what are the best 3 things that happened? And maybe it's, I spent an hour and I planned out my goals. I spent an hour and I answered those first 3 questions that Joyce said to do that. But when you start to take action, then what you're going to find is every time you get a quick win and you acknowledge it, it creates a dopamine response in your brain. It's that feel-good chemical. And you're like, all right, that was easy enough. What's the next thing I can do? What's the next thing I can do? What's the next thing that I can do? So Some people move super fast. I found some of the clients I work with, because things are new and that's where your brain, your comfort zones get in the way, that they're very hesitant because they're afraid that they're going to make a mistake. I would much rather you move forward and you know that you've got people, information, resources, you have that support to be able to help you. In fact, that's why we have the Online Entrepreneurs and Coaches Facebook group. People are able to go in and ask questions every single day about their business and get support. It's not coming to me for one-on-one coaching. It's putting it out to the group and saying, hey, I want to do this. What do you think? And guess what? My Facebook group isn't the only way to do that. A great place to ask questions, you can put it out on Instagram. I really think personal Facebook pages are a great way to do that. Ask a question and say, I'm looking at doing this. Who might have feedback on it? But every time you put yourself out there, you are taking action. The first thing is it's going to help fill in some of the pieces that might be missing. The second thing is it helps your audience, whether they be friends, family, or people that you don't know, but you're still friends with on Facebook, to be able to recognize who you are. And when they start to see the value that you have to offer and what you can do, you never know where those connections might lead. So if you're truly wanting to know how to turn your knowledge into action, if you manage to catch this at the end, as I said, just grab the show notes, drop the word action in the comments, or send me a DM. Happy to send them your way. As long as you're celebrating wins, I am absolutely ecstatic about that. You've got a very simple step-by-step guide. I went through a lot of questions to ask yourself. A lot of times, the more questions that you ask, that's what is also going to help spark creativity. And if you don't know, then ask that of your trusted business associates or trusted friends. So with that, know that weekly I go live. Unless something happens, I am live at least once a week with information, tips, and resources. You can catch me on social. And of course, I'm over on the YouTube channel, but I'm happy to get the show notes for those that ask. And I cannot wait to see what you take action on in your business.